Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
Welcome back, Hugh. Today we're going deep, really deep, into the world of Scrum Mastery.
It's a fascinating topic.
It is. We're focusing specifically on the role of the Scrum Master and using Scrum Mastery from good to great servant leadership as our guide.
Well, that's a good one. It's packed with real-world stories and practical advice.
Yeah, it's not just theory. It's about making Scrum work.
Absolutely. And right off the bat, the book emphasizes the Scrum Master as a servant leader.
Okay, so not a manager, not a project lead, a servant leader.
Right.
But what does that even look like in practice in a busy Scrum environment?
Well, it's more about enabling the team than controlling them.
Okay, I like that.
You know, like a gardener.
Oh, interesting analogy.
They create the conditions for growth, but they don't dictate how the plants should grow, right? A Scrum Master does the same, removing obstacles, facilitating communication, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. So it's not about being the hero who solves every problem.
No.
It's about guiding the team towards being self-sufficient. Like that story in the book about Chris, the Scrum Master, who basically worked himself out of a job.
Oh, yeah. He empowered his team so much they didn't need him for every little decision.
Wow.
He understood that success was about the team thriving independently.
Kind of like the Nanny McPhee analogy they use?
Yeah. She guides the children, and eventually they don't need her anymore.
They learn and mature.
Exactly.
So the book highlights these key qualities for a Scrum Master. Respected, enabling, tactful, resourceful.
Yeah.
It's not just knowing the framework, it's the people skills, the emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. And it talks about asking the team as the default response to problems.
So instead of giving solutions,
You empower the team to find their own.
which builds that we're in this together feeling.
Exactly.
They call this team development process the hairy shoe, which is, I guess, their take on the Shuhari model.
Yeah, their playful name for it.
Okay, so why hairy shoe? I gotta ask.
Well, think about learning karate. You start by imitating the master, following the rules. Shoe.
Right.
Then you start adapting, finding your own style.
Okay.
And finally, you transcend the rules completely. It becomes natural, like water.
Yay! So the hairy shoe is that beginning stage.
Yeah, where you're still figuring things out, maybe tripping a little.
Still learning the ropes.
Exactly. The Scrum Master guides them through those stages, creating that safe space.
A safe space to learn and experiment.
Yeah, but we know it's not always easy.
Especially when you're dealing with corporate culture, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The book's pretty honest about the challenges Scrum teams face in traditional companies.
Yeah, fixed deadlines, hierarchical decision-making. We've always done it this way.
It's like trying to sail a speedboat through a bunch of cargo ships.
Exactly.
So how do you navigate that without sinking?
Well, the book suggests advocating for change, but respecting the norms.
Okay, find that balance.
Like the story about Xander, the Scrum Master, who pushed back against unrealistic deadlines.
Oh yeah, what did he do?
He presented data, showed the impact of deadline pressure, and proposed a better approach.
So he challenged the norm, but respectfully.
Yeah, with evidence.
He was a change agent, but with tact and diplomacy.
Exactly.
Which I guess is also important when holding the team accountable.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be the Scrum police. Nobody likes a micromanager.
No, they talk about using working agreements in the book.
Right, setting clear expectations, shared ownership.
So the team contract.
Everyone agrees on how they'll work together.
Right. And they have a story about Vince, the Scrum Master, who facilitated this exercise.
Working agreements, pretty standard, right?
Yeah, but it was how he handled violations.
So not getting angry or blaming him.
No, he'd calmly remind them of the agreement and ask how they could avoid it in the future.
Turning a negative into a positive.
Exactly, and that creates a safe environment for speaking up.
Where people feel comfortable holding each other accountable.
Yeah, accountability with empathy, not just enforcing rules.
I like that.
And this all ties into communication, something the book really stresses.
Especially direct communication between the team and the product owner.
Yeah, they talk about the problem of proxies.
Like a go-between for the product owner.
Right, which can cause confusion.
Bottlenecks, misunderstandings.
Exactly, and it goes against the Agile Manifesto. Business people and developers must work together daily.
Direct collaboration is key.
And they illustrate this with Philip, a busy product owner.
Who relied on a proxy.
Yeah, and it led to all sorts of problems.
Delays, frustration.
Exactly.
So even with good intentions, a middleman can hinder things.
Absolutely.
And speaking of communication, they also dig into giving and receiving feedback effectively.
Oh, yeah, they even mentioned those frameworks. AID model, Wiley.
Wait, hold on. What are those again?
AID is action, impact, desired outcome.
Okay.
It's about framing feedback constructively.
Focusing on behavior, not making it personal.
Right.
And Wiley.
What I liked, what I learned, what to adjust, things I'd like to try.
Okay, so it's structured both positive and actionable.
Exactly. Feedback should be a two-way street.
Where everyone feels heard and respected.
Yes. It's about continuous improvement, seeing feedback as a gift, not a threat.
That's a great way to put it, a gift.
And speaking of improvement, they also talk about rethinking the sprint burn-down chart.
Oh, what
They acknowledge it can be monotonous, sometimes misinterpreted.
Yeah, if it's used to micromanage, it can be demotivating.
Exactly. They share a story about Mir Jam, a Scrum Master, who helped your team find a more engaging way.
To track their progress.
Yeah, they replaced the chart with a giant Lego wall.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, it was visual, fun, motivating.
Wow, I love that. Turning a chore into a game.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we can adapt the tools, be creative.
Find what works for the team.
Right, and this ties into another important point.
Yeah.
Yes, and thinking,
Tell me more about that.
it's a core element of collaboration, building on each other's ideas.
Instead of yes, but, which shuts things down.
Exactly. Yes, but kills creativity.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
They have this story about a team, the Bullet Dodgers.
Okay.
They had a crazy deadline, and they needed to find solutions fast.
So they use yes and.
Yeah, yes, and what if we? It led to unexpected, innovative solutions.
It's amazing how a simple mindset shift can do that.
Right. And sometimes that innovation requires a bit of disruption.
Challenging the status quo.
The Scrum Master is a change agent.
But there's a line between disruption and being annoying.
Absolutely. You got to be tactful, respectful.
Advocate for change while acknowledging what's already there.
Like Shelley, the Scrum Master, who had to deal with a company-wide tool mandate.
Oh, what happened there?
The mandated tool was clunky, didn't fit their workflow.
So what did she do?
She found a workaround, used the tool for reporting, but let the team use what worked for them.
She bent the rules without breaking them.
Exactly, finding a creative solution that benefited everyone.
I really appreciate how practical this book is,
Yeah, it's not just theory.
It's actionable advice, real-world examples.
And it brings us to another crucial aspect. Focus.
Especially with team members working on multiple projects.
The dreaded context switching.
It's so draining and unproductive.
They highlight the benefits of single tasking, focusing on one thing at a time.
Finishing it before moving on.
Right, they have this story about the wizard sleeves.
Okay.
They were constantly pulled in different directions, everyone multitasking.
Sounds chaotic.
It was. And their Scrum Master, Tony, saw this lack of focus as the root cause.
So he advocated for change.
He negotiated a trial period where they focused on just one project.
And it worked.
Their productivity soared, quality improved significantly.
Wow, that's a powerful example.
It shows that sometimes structural change is needed for the team to thrive.
Advocating for the team at a higher level.
Exactly. Understanding the true cost of multitasking and making that case for a focused environment.
It's all about creating the right environment for Scrum to really work, advocating for the team within the bigger picture of the company.
That's it, making sure Scrum can flourish.
The book talks about embracing the art of the possible, making the best of any situation. Didn't they have a story about that? Like a flight attendant or something?
Oh, yeah. The one where the flight attendant on Southwest Airlines, she turned the safety announcements into a rap.
Oh, I think I remember that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, instead of just going through the motions, she made it fun and engaging.
I bet those passengers actually paid attention for once. It's all about thinking outside the box.
Right. Finding creative solutions when things get tough.
Sometimes you got to improvise, think on your feet.
Exactly. It's not just about the Scrum Guide. It's about adapting it, finding what works.
Each team is different. Each situation is different.
Right. The book also talks about invoking creativity within the team. They even mentioned the Tom Sawyer effect.
Tricking your friends into whitewashing the fence.
Exactly. Reframing tasks to make them more appealing.
Make it seem like a privilege, not a chore.
They share this story about a team in South Africa that turned their administrative work into a Connect 4 game.
So instead of dreading those tasks, they made it fun and competitive.
Exactly. A little gamification can go a long way.
It makes you wonder, what other creative ways are there to reframe work and keep people engaged?
Well, that's where the Scrum Master's facilitation skills come in. They can guide that brainstorming process,
Help the team experiment, find what works for them.
Right. And speaking of embracing the unexpected, the book also talks about celebrating failure.
Or at least learning from it.
They actually encourage teams to applaud unsuccessful outcomes.
Not because failure is good, but because it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, creating that safe space to take risks, experiment.
Knowing that even if it doesn't go perfectly, you'll learn something.
Exactly. And they also talk about forgiveness over permission. Sometimes it's better to act first.
Especially with process improvements, getting bogged down in bureaucracy can kill momentum.
They even mentioned that Amazon has a principle of disagree and commit.
Where everyone can voice their opinions, but ultimately they align with the team's decision.
Right. It's about moving quickly, experimenting, adapting.
Not getting stuck in endless analysis.
And that brings us to the concept of T-shaped people.
Remind me what that means again.
So imagine a T. The vertical line is deep expertise in one area.
Okay.
And the horizontal line is a broader understanding of other areas.
So they're not just specialists. They can collaborate across disciplines.
Exactly. And the book argues that these T-shaped people are essential for high-performing Scrum teams.
Because they can adapt to changing needs, help each other out.
Right. They had that story about the geckos, remember?
They were too specialized.
Yeah, the testers were overloaded, developers weren't testing early enough,
Working in silos.
creating bottlenecks and delays.
It shows how important cross-functional collaboration is.
Absolutely. Breaking down those silos.
So how can a Scrum Master encourage this T-shaped development?
Well, they can facilitate knowledge sharing, encourage pair programming, cross-training.
Making sure people have opportunities to learn different skills.
The book mentions a team that used a sheriff badge system
That's cool.
to encourage people to become experts in multiple areas.
Gamifying the learning process. I like it.
It's about fostering continuous learning and growth within the team.
So we've talked about the team's internal workings. But what about delivering a finished product? The book talks about defining done right.
Oh yeah, and it's not just checking off tasks on a list.
It's deeper than that.
Everyone needs to understand what done really means, so there's no ambiguity.
So no more almost done or 90% done.
Exactly. Done means it's ready to ship, it meets all the quality standards.
No compromises.
They even warn against Scrummerfall.
What's that?
It's when teams use Scrum, but they still have that waterfall mindset.
So testing and integration are still done at the end.
Right, it's Scrum in name only.
Not truly embracing the iterative and collaborative spirit.
They share a story about the Doomsday Bunnies. They had a huge conflict because the developers and testers weren't working together.
Ah, that classic divide.
Their Scrum Master helped them realize that quality was everyone's responsibility.
It's a team effort, not just something the testers handle at the end.
Exactly, shifting from that throw-it-over-the-wall mentality to a more collaborative approach.
Where everyone is invested in delivering a high-quality product.
And speaking of delivering, they also talk about making sprint reviews more effective, more engaging.
Didn't they have a story about a customer doing the demonstration?
Oh yeah, the product owner, Isa. She realized it would be way more impactful for the customer to show the features.
Letting them speak directly to the team.
It gave the developers valuable feedback, seeing their work through the user's eyes.
So the sprint review becomes more than just a formality.
Right, it's a celebration, chance to get feedback, build relationships with stakeholders.
It's a learning opportunity.
And they emphasize asking the right questions during those reviews,
To really get valuable insights.
Not just showing what you built, but understanding how it meets the needs of the user.
And how it can be improved.
Exactly. They have a list of specific questions teams can use.
Like, have priorities changed? Or have any estimates changed?
Yeah, those kinds of questions help the team and the product owner make better decisions for the next sprint.
It's about adapting, constantly learning and improving.
And that brings us to another important topic, sprint goals.
Ah, yes. Those can be tricky sometimes. What's their take on them?
They believe sprint goals are essential. They provide focus and motivation for the team.
It's not just what you're building, it's the why behind it.
Exactly. Having that North Star to guide everyone's efforts.
Keeping the team aligned on what's most important.
They encourage teams to be creative with their sprint goals, use metaphors, themes.
To make it more engaging and memorable.
They even have a list of potential metaphors, like sports teams, movies, food.
I love that. It adds personality to the process.
They have the story about a Scrum Master named Spencer. He encouraged his team to think outside the box.
To be creative with their sprint goal.
Yeah, one team member suggested negotiating with the product owner to reprioritize the backlog.
So they could focus on the most impactful work.
Exactly. The sprint goal empowered them to think strategically.
Find creative solutions.
And speaking of creative solutions, they revisit the sprint burn-down chart, acknowledging it can get a bit boring.
Yeah, just staring at a chart can feel like micromanaging.
They encourage Scrum Masters to find alternative ways to track progress, something more engaging.
More visual, maybe?
They tell the story of Mirjam again, who helped her team replace the chart with a Lego wall.
Wait, a Lego wall. Tell me more.
As they completed tasks, they added Lego bricks, so they could literally see their progress growing.
It's like a visual representation of their achievements.
It became a focal point for the team. They loved seeing the wall grow.
It's a great way to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Absolutely, keeping the team motivated and engaged.
And that ties into another important aspect, nurturing a positive team dynamic.
Yeah, that's crucial.
But also one of the most challenging aspects, right? People are complex.
It can be tricky dealing with different personalities.
Finding what motivates each person.
The book stresses the importance of recognizing the team's strengths
Building on what's working well.
instead of focusing on weaknesses.
It's like that thing where parents only see the one bad grade on the report card.
We tend to focus on the negative.
But as Scrum Masters, we need to shift our perspective, look for the positive.
They share a story about Paris, a Scrum Master who inherited the problem team.
Oh no, the problem team, what did she do?
Instead of accepting that label, she looked for their strengths, helped them shine.
Turn things around.
She even created an awesomeness backlog.
What a great idea, flipping the script.
It gave them something positive to work towards.
So it's about seeing the best in people, even when they're struggling.
Believing in their potential.
But what about when you have a truly toxic team member? Someone
Yeah.
who brings everyone down.
That's tough, and the book doesn't shy away from that.
So what do they suggest?
They say you have to deal with it, even if it means making tough decisions.
Sometimes it's better to let someone go than let them poison the whole team.
They even quote Dan Jacobs from Apple, who said, "I'd rather have a hole in my team than an asshole in my team."
Wow, that's a strong statement.
But it highlights how damaging one toxic person can be.
Sometimes you have to protect the team.
Prioritize the long-term health and well-being of everyone.
And that brings us to another essential skill, listening.
Ah, yes, listening. It seems so basic, but it's so important.
Then it's a skill, it takes practice.
The book emphasizes that. They even share a listening exercise called First Letter, Last Letter.
What's that?
It's a game where each person has to start their sentence with the last letter of the previous person's sentence.
Oh, that's fun.
It forces you to really pay attention, and it can be quite engaging.
A playful way to practice a crucial skill.
And good Scrum Masters, they don't just listen to what's said, they also pay attention to what's not said.
Body language, subtle cues,
Reading between the lines.
like a detective.
They have a story about Lonnie, a Scrum Master who noticed her team had become less collaborative.
They weren't helping each other as much.
She addressed it directly, created a space for them to talk about what was going on.
Using her listening skills to identify potential problems before they escalated.
Exactly. Sometimes just observing and listening can reveal a lot.
And that ties into another theme, having belief in the team.
Trusting their abilities.
If you believe in them, you're more likely to listen to them.
Exactly. Trusting that they can solve their own problems.
With the right support.
They even mention the Pygmalion effect.
Our expectations can influence others' performance.
If we believe they can succeed, they're more likely to.
It's a powerful concept.
And having belief also means letting go of the need to have all the answers.
Which can be tough, especially for people in leadership positions.
They encourage Scrum Masters to ask, don't tell.
Empowering the team, letting them find their own solutions.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important aspect. Facilitation.
That's a core skill for any Scrum Master.
They say great Scrum Masters are excellent facilitators,
Guiding the team, making sure everyone is on the same page.
Facilitating communication, collaboration, problem solving.
Not just within the team, but with the wider organization as well.
And this extends to helping the team improve their processes, removing impediments.
Speaking of removing impediments, a question that often comes up is being a Scrum Master really a full-time job?
It's a good question, and the book addresses it directly.
It sounds like a lot of responsibility.
They make a strong case for dedicating someone fully to the role.
To really get the most out of the team.
They talk about the potential conflicts of interest when someone tries to juggle the Scrum Master role with other responsibilities.
Like being a developer or the product owner.
Right. It can be a lot to handle.
So they believe it's worth investing in a full-time Scrum Master.
They argue it's an investment in the team's success, allowing that person to focus on enabling the team and removing obstacles.
Without being cold in different directions.
Exactly. It's not about saving money by having someone wear multiple hats. It's about recognizing the value of a dedicated Scrum Master.
Someone who can truly champion the team and the process.
Absolutely. Seeing the Scrum Master role as a crucial investment in the team's overall effectiveness.
Yeah, it really shows how critical the Scrum Master is for a team to be successful.
It's not just knowing how Scrum works. It's about getting those principles, really living them.
And this book, Scrum Mastery, it gives you such a practical roadmap for that.
It's full of real stories, things you can actually use, and it's even kind of funny sometimes.
Yeah, it's not a boring textbook at all.
It feels more like you're chatting with experienced Scrum Masters, people who've learned the hard way what works and what doesn't.
So if you're serious about upping your Scrum game, this book is a must-read.
It's full of those light bulb moments, things that make you rethink your approach.
See things from a new angle.
But even more than the specific tips, it's about developing that servant leader mentality.
Understanding how to empower a team, help them reach their full potential.
And here's something to think about you. We've talked a lot about the challenges Scrum Masters face from outside the team, but what about the internal ones?
Oh, that's interesting. It's not just about the process, it's about ourselves, right?
Yeah, developing that self-awareness, that resilience to be a truly effective leader.
Think about the best Scrum Masters you've known, the ones who really inspired you.
What made them so good?
I bet it went beyond just knowing Scrum.
It was their empathy, their communication, their ability to create that safe environment for the team to learn and grow.
So as you're thinking about all this, consider your own journey towards Scrum Mastery.
Yeah, where are you strong? What could you work on?
What qualities could you develop to become a truly great Scrum Master?
It's not just about mastering the techniques. It's about growing as a leader, as a facilitator.
That's a great takeaway. It's an ongoing journey.
Keep learning, keep growing, and your teams will benefit.
And on that note, we've reached the end of another deep dive.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little inspiring.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep pushing those boundaries with Scrum.
And remember, Scrum Mastery is a journey, not a destination.
Embrace the challenges, celebrate the wins, and never stop learning.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.